Please be seated. Good evening, councillors, members of the public, officers. I'd like all members and members of the public to be turning the phone off for the proceedings of tonight. There isn't a fire alarm planned, but if there is, our fire exits are there, and I don't believe we have anyone in the public gallery. We are filming tonight. The camera is placed over to my left. It will be put onto, I don't know, so like YouTube? Yeah, tomorrow. Can I also remind members that you've all signed up to a code of conduct as well? So I'd appreciate if that was followed. Move on to agenda item 1. Apologies for absences. Councillor Snaith.
Apologies from Councillor Naomi and Charles Archer.
Councillor Bilby.
Councillor Sangara and Councillor Prince.
And I've got apologies from Councillors Lorna McGuinness, Paul McGuinness and Councillor Price.
Thank you. Is there any other apologies for absences? No. Move on to agenda item 2, minutes of the previous meeting. I move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the Borough Council held on the 22nd of January be approved as a true record and signed by me. Councillor Dawson.
I would like to second that. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Thank you. Move on to agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Does any member have any declaration? No. Move on to agenda item 4, mayoral communications. Since the last meeting of the full council, it has once again been a privilege to represent the Borough of Erewash at a range of civic engagements across our communities. One of the most enjoyable aspects of my mayoralty is the opportunity to meet young people from across the borough and help them understand a little bit more about local democracy and history of our towns. Over the past few weeks, I've had the delight of welcoming a number of groups to both Long Eaton and Ilkeston Town Hall, including 10th Ilkeston Cubs, 2nd West Hallam Brownies and 4th Sawley Brownies. These visits are always a way of highlighting the amazing work that the local authority does and helping the curiosity of those young people understand a little bit more about it. I would also like to place on record my thanks to the officers who have helped facilitate these visits, organising the tours and making sure that the groups have a positive experience when they come to see the local town hall. These visits are an important part of connecting young people with their community and the work of local government. Continuing on that theme of supporting young people, I also had the pleasure of attending the celebration and awards at Ilkeston Enterprise Academy, where students were recognised for their achievement and hard work. It was inspiring to see so many young people, being celebrated, and it's a reminder of the talent and potential we have in the next generation. Another particularly meaningful engagement was attending the groundbreaking ceremony of the new First Sawley Scout Group hut. Scout plays an incredibly important role in developing confidence, leadership and community spirit in young people, and it was fantastic to see the start of a project that will provide a new home for the group and a lasting asset for the community. I also had the honour of attending the induction and installation of Reverend Dawn Knight at Christchurch Cotman in Shipley, marking an important moment for the church and the wider community of Reverend Knight formally begins her ministry in the parish, although I think Councillor Burns might attest to it. I think she's actually already been there 3 years, so maybe a bit late. Sport is another area where young people across the borough continue to excel. I had the pleasure of attending the Derbyshire County Swimming Championships at Morway Swimming Village in Derby, where it was great to see many talented swimmers competing and representing their clubs from both Long Eaton and Ilkeston. Turning to the regeneration in the borough, I was also very pleased to take part in the official opening of the new stable block in Long Eaton, a project delivered as part of the Long Eaton Town Deal Board. This development is a fantastic example of how investment and partnership working together can breathe new life into historic buildings while supporting the future of the town. Projects like this are about more than just bricks and mortar. They're about creating spaces for businesses, community, activity and opportunity. I would like to thank everyone involved in bringing that project from idea to reality. Our borough's arts and culture scene also continues to thrive. I recently had the pleasure of attending Erewash Music Society youth group production of Guys and Dolls, and yesterday evening the Erewash Musical Society production of Boogie Nights. Over the past 2 years, as both Deputy Mayor and Mayor, I've had the fortune enough to attend all of their productions, and it is always a pleasure to see the incredible local talent on display and the dedication of everyone involved in bringing those shows to life. We've also had 2 long service awards within the borough. We've had 10 years from Matthew Wingfield and 25 years from Sam Chapman. Looking ahead, I would also like to highlight the importance in our civic calendar. On Thursday, the 20th of March, I will be hosting the Erewash Civic Dinner along at Town Hall in this very room. This evening, we'll bring together everyone, hopefully, if you're invited, as well as doing some important community awards. We'll be doing a number of community awards celebrating volunteers, organisations and community champions whose dedication helps Erewash make it is the place today. Looking slightly further ahead in April, I will also be undertaking a rather unusual journey, travelling by Reliant Robin to visit all of our twin towns in both France and Germany. The aim is to strengthen long-standing relationships between our communities while also raising awareness and support for the charities that I'm championing this year. It should certainly be an interesting journey. I look forward to reporting back to you on this. And before I conclude, I'd like to invite the Deputy Mayor, who has also been on a relationships improving mission over in Pittsburgh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going over to Pittsburgh to visit family, and I thought, why not do something to promote Erewash and businesses? So with the help of Civic Officer Jane Fennick, who was really the catalyst for this, she was, she took the bone and she went with it. She arranged for me to meet the mayor of Pittsburgh, and that's Mayor Corey O'Connor, and also his chief of staff, Dan Gilman, and assistant chief of staff, James Hill. And I got there on the Monday, and it was a very fruitful meeting, talking about businesses. And where they would like to start is with breweries and trading of beer, back and forth, craft beer and shipping, and then also want to look at expanding that into other businesses as well. And so from this point forward, obviously I'll have to go higher up the food chain for that, because we can't do that, the international trade. So I'll be liaising with both MPs that represent parts of Erewash and see if they can get on board with that. But while I was there, Mayor Corey O'Connor was very interested in what Erewash, the borough of Erewash did. He loved the borough bling that I brought along, and he was really impressed when I told him what all the things we do and how it works. I was invited back for another meeting on the Thursday where he treated me to lunch, and he wanted to talk about issues of what each country faces, and that was quite an interesting thing as well. And we conferred on a lot of subjects. He then presented me with 2 books to give back to the council. One called Pittsburgh That Stays Within You, and one of Pittsburgh Visions. And he asked me to give it to our mayor with his deepest respect, and hopes that one day when you come to Pittsburgh, you stop by and knock on his door. There you go.
Thank you, Greg. That's very much so. Thank you, Greg. And I know, thank you. And finally, before I finish, I should also like to note this is going to be the last ordinary council meeting of which I will deliver mayoral communications during my year. And it has been a genuine honour to serve as Mayor of Erewash and to represent the borough at so many events across our communities. And I do look forward to continue those duties over the coming weeks as my year draws to an end. Thank you. Councillor Pace, I don't think we do questions at this point or speaking.
It was comments, sir.
If it's really brief and quick.
Thank you, sir. I sat in on one of your sessions at Ilkeston Town Hall and was truly impressed. So I wanted to pass on my congratulations. There are many young people in the neighbourhood who have zero political education at all. Those lucky people who were with you will at least have some. So I would appreciate just a word of congratulations and thanks.
Thank you very much. I won't take any more because we'll leave it there. Move on to public questions. We've had one public question submitted by Stuart Allen, and that question has been put to Councillor Howard. Mr. Allen.
Mr. Mayor, I'm Stuart Allen, founder member of the Friends of West Park, and I've spent 4 years as a community rep on the town dean. My question is as follows. The final Long Eaton town deal is to improve the high street. The footfall in the high street has no doubt been reduced by having Asda, Tesco's, Aldi, Lidl's on the periphery, and recently the demise of the major banks. There is provision within the planning rules of the council to retrospectively modify the planning permission of the supermarkets. Will the council act? This could prevent them from further widening the range of services that they offer that would poach more business from the high street. EBC could limit trade beyond food, drink and clothes to prevent further erosion of high street services. For example, restricting opticians, pharmacies, hairdressers, butchers and fishmongers' counters, shoe shops, banking hubs, franchises and agencies. Now that's not an exhaustive list, but action could stabilise and breathe new life into the high street. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Councillor Howard.
Firstly, Your Worship, I would like to thank Mr. Allen for his question. I didn't know about this process, and I'm always keen to learn more about Byzantine planning law. Theoretically, we could do what's been suggested here and alter the planning permissions granted to the big supermarkets after the fact, imposing new and more strenuous planning conditions on their operations. However, this would be a very difficult, prolonged and expensive process. We would have to issue the relevant order against each of the separate supermarkets, which I make to be about 9 across Ilkeston, Long Eaton and Sandiacre. The orders would then each go to inquiry by the Secretary of State, where the businesses would have to register their objections. It seems quite feasible to me that the objections would be made on each order would be made not just by the relevant supermarket to each order, but by all of the supermarkets on the grounds that we were fundamentally threatening their business model. It would, of course, also be rather difficult to prove that making the supermarkets reduce their services would increase their availability elsewhere, but they would certainly be able to maintain that reducing their services would harm public amenity and be deeply unusual behaviour from us as the planning authority. In the unlikely event that our orders were successfully approved by the Secretary of State, we would then be liable to compensate the supermarkets for their potential losses. Now, I went around fishing for some data on this. A normal supermarket might be expected to take in £1 or £2 million a week, rising to north of £1 million per day in the busiest periods like around Christmas. The way British supermarkets work is that they run rather low but consistent profit margins. What percentage of that business are the additional services being referenced here? Who knows? Nobody can say. Put simply, even if we were successful in doing what the question asked us to do, The council would then proceed to bankrupt itself, shelling out potentially tens of millions in compensation to the major supermarkets. That, of course, doesn't consider any potential legal action the supermarkets might take and the relevant costs. They have vastly more resources than we do and have been plenty litigious with councils before. So whilst I do appreciate the question being asked, and I hope I've demonstrated that I did well look into this, no, we won't be doing it. Instead, we'll continue our existing and expanding policies for supporting local businesses in our town centre. Action to bring empty shops back into use, shop sign grants, shop frontage grants, money to Erewash Partnership and the East Midlands Chamber for business support, the abolition of pavement licences, and from April, providing free parking across the entire weekend. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Howard. Move on to agenda item 6, presentation of petitions. There were none, so move on to agenda item 7, questions by members for the leader, lead member or chairman of committee. Councillor Nee.
Thank you, Your Worship. I regard the Erewash Museum as one of the greatest assets of the council, playing a vital role in recording and preserving the heritage of Ilkeston, Long Eaton and the surrounding villages. The forthcoming local government review, however, will pass control of the council's assets to a new local authority. What steps, if any, are being taken to ensure that our local heritage assets, especially the Erewash Museum, will be kept local after the restructure, rather than being subsumed into a wider, less relevant organisation? I don't think that we can just rely on this new authority doing the right thing with our history.
Thank you, Councillor Nee. Councillor Everett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Mee and I hold Erewash Museum in a similar regard. It's a wonderful source of local history and culture. Not only do you learn something new every time you attend the museum, but there are many events, especially for young people, across the borough. The council is very aware of the challenges that local government reorganisation brings. It is a priority of mine to ensure that the museum successfully transitions to a new authority. And not only that, I want the new council to see it as one of their greatest assets. This is why we are actively future-proofing the museum. Firstly, we are ensuring that our Arts Council England accreditation is robust. Our policies are being refreshed and we are investing in high-quality collections care to make sure that Erewash Museum is not something that can be easily swept aside. We have also invested in the museum. Any regular museum goers will be aware that the cafe has been moved and improved, and this has seen real success. We are continuing to invest in the heritage programme and events, and they've had a huge difference in the experience of visitors. We want to make sure that the museum is a place that people want to attend time and time again. We are also currently developing a major £250,000 bid to the National Lottery Heritage Fund. If successful, this investment would provide a protective ring of funding specifically for community engagement and resilience during the transition to a new authority. Erewash Museum is a hugely important asset to the borough and safeguards Ilkeston, Long Eaton and the village's heritage. I will continue to ensure that we are doing all we can to protect it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Everett. Move on to agenda item 8, setting of the council tax 26/77, and also the financial minutes standing agenda item 9, financial minutes standing referred to council minutes number 331, 332 and 333. We will take agenda item, the setting of council tax, and agenda item 9, the financial minutes standing referred to council together. It is also customary to extend the 5 minutes councillors have to speak to 10 minutes to one member either side of the chamber, and that is being done so tonight. A recorded vote will also have to be taken at the end of this, as it is a legal requirement. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, when I stood here 12 months ago, our Labour government at Westminster had inherited a financial mess and had been left to fix a broken funding system, one that the Tories had promised to fix for years but never did. 12 months on, and the Labour government has delivered on its promise to reform the funding system, and offer a multi-year settlement to councils. For a long time now, we have been saying that Erewash was unfairly treated by the old funding system. So, under this new funding formula, the product of a newly elected Labour government at Westminster, it's welcome to see that Erewash has done the best out of all the Derbyshire districts in the settlement. At last, the indices of deprivation that apply to Erewash have been properly recognised in the funding formula. In this new settlement, we are the only council in Derbyshire to see an increase in our core spending power. The new funding system has recognised the impact of deprivation in our community and our limited council tax raising potential, and this is a welcome correction. Secondly, I'm proud of the way we have managed our finances over the past 2 years. Rather than avoiding some challenging decisions, crossing our fingers and hoping for the best, a policy that's often been advocated by others, we have been prudent. The reality is that the decisions this administration made will have saved the council over £10 million by the time of vesting day and the completion of local government reorganisation. With the Tories failing to provide multi-year settlements, they were the right decisions at the right time. That prudence has paid off as we now find ourselves with a balanced budget, some reserves set aside to help in the creation of a new council, which is in the best interest of residents, no matter what anyone thinks about local government reorganisation. And the best news of all is that we have millions to invest in our borough over the next 2 years via the Erewash Investment Fund. Thirdly, I'm pleased to present my proposed budget, a budget that protects all of our services while also includes investment in some key services. Let me share with you some of the headlines. The budget includes a council tax freeze, and this puts money back into the pockets of residents. The budget includes no change to the vast majority of fees and charges. So for sports clubs that hire pitches, there is no increase in pitch hire. The budget includes a freeze on existing car park charges alongside December free parking. The budget includes free parking on Saturdays across the borough. The budget includes no change to the garden waste fee. The budget includes additional capacity to deliver the council's new responsibilities under the Renters' Rights Act. This is a really important piece of legislation, and it's about time we got serious about stopping dodgy landlords, and we will now have more powers to do exactly that. The budget includes over £900,000 to deliver the new food waste service from the 1st of April to households. The budget includes some new staffing resource to work with partners with the aim of bringing empty homes back into use. The budget includes additional capacity for debt recovery and more funding for citizens' advice so that the council can tailor support to the needs of individuals. The cost of living crisis has taken its toll, and we want to do more to help residents. The budget includes funding set aside for the creation of a new local plan. We know there are many in this chamber who don't want to see houses being built, judging by their record over the last decade and more. But that's just wrong. We have a responsibility to get houses built for our residents, and we haven't been doing that for too long. The council's core budget makes sense. It will deliver for residents. It is a balanced budget that doesn't use reserves to make it work. In fact, it puts funds back into reserves. And finally, this administration has already allocated £1.8 million expenditure from the Erewash Investment Fund, and I'm pleased to see that we have over £4 million more to spend. I'm sure that everyone in this chamber agrees that investing in our borough while we have the chance to do so is the right thing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Dawson, for second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second the recommendations, and I would like to reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Councillor Major.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When considering the budget in front of you, I can't help but consider the previous budgets, the past two previous budgets, actually. And I think we need to recognise why the £10 million additional income is there. As it says, this is the brown bin tax. This is a 50% increase in car parking charges. This is stripping parish councils and our villages of all funding. This is scrapping anything that makes this borough looks pretty and nice. I'm talking about flowers. The stopping mowing of grass for a year, which was an unbelievable disaster, and so much more. And now we give a little back and expect people to say, thank you very much. It's incredibly disappointing. It was pointed out consistently when the cuts were being made and the fees and charges were being introduced that it was too far, too quickly, that there was no taking stock. It turned out to be absolutely correct beyond belief in terms of the now surpluses you find yourself with. 2 million already gone into the Erewash Investment Fund, another 4.5 million going into it, another £500,000 for a new core strategy, and another 1.5 million put aside for LGR. And still, after that, more in excess of our minimum reserves required. So it's not somehow magical money that you made achieve, Mr. Mayor. It is money that has been taken from the residents of Erewash, either in taxes, fees and charges, or reduced services, particularly hard hitting to those in the parishes and villages, which many of you don't represent, and now being spent and redistributed in a way that you feel fit, and hoping that everybody says, thank you very much, please can have some more staff. I find it a little bit disturbing that we're putting £500,000 aside for a core strategy, which there is no way on this earth will complete in time before LGR. It was actually very telling. I was at Erewash Borough Parish Council meeting last night, and the Deputy Mayor was talking about Derby City's local plan and arguing to the Parish Council that it shouldn't respond to the consultation that Derby City had because LGR is happening. It won't matter anyway. It'll all change after that. Except we're putting £500,000 ahead aside to press on with it. I worry that the money is being wasted. I worry that parishes and villages are being completely overlooked and starved of funding. We've had over the past 3 years £600,000 stripped out of the parish councils in terms of funding, except and we're given £180,000 and told that we should be grateful. It's not fair. It's not honest with the residents of Erewash. We do need to give some of this money back, but we should have never taken quite a lot of it in the first place, Mr. Mayor. And I do hope that when you're considering the budget and how Erewash investment strategy is put forward, that you do consider the villages as well, and also consider about next year potentially giving people a bit more back, because I do really worry that we're going to be looped in with a Derby City that's in massive amounts of debt, and the money that you've taken off Erewash residents will just get lost into a black hole of Derby City.
Thank you, Councillor Major. Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a budget that freezes council tax and almost all other council fees and charges. It expands free car parking across the whole weekend, and it does so while continuing to deliver unprecedented investment into our borough for a council that only a few short years ago was on the brink of bankruptcy. It's a genuine transformation. We're expanding street cleaning once again for the second year in a row. The number of neighbourhood wardens is going back up after the Tories slashed them. We're increasing the number of sprays against weeds with a targeted focus on places with persistent problems. These are visible, practical improvements that local people can see and notice where they live. Your Worship, I also want to draw attention to the budget consultation because the results were very interesting. I love data, and to me, they were also very encouraging. The most popular measure with an extraordinary 93% approval was action on empty shops. Last year, we launched the Shopfront Improvement Grant, offering up to £10,000 to local businesses to improve the appearance of their premises and help make our town centres look and feel better. That's a nice, good thing to do, but we didn't stop there. Where buildings were particularly shoddy, clearly neglected or long-term empty, we wrote to the owners offering the grant, but we also made clear that if they refused to act, we would serve them with Section 215 clean-up orders. These are legal powers that councils have always had, enabling us to force negligent landlords to sort out the buildings they've allowed to rot. This approach has already seen results. The gangsters who owned the Burton's building in Long Eaton didn't much fancy the scrutiny the legal order would bring. They scarpered, put the building up for auction and sold it to a new local buyer who is now working proactively with the council. At the Ilkeston wine vaults, the required work was carried out without complaint, and it too now has been sold on. For those unfamiliar with how these orders work, they require the owner to complete the work within a set period of time, and if they do not, we step in, we carry out the work, we send them the bill, and we recover the costs in court if needs be. In January, we reached that point on the former Bellevue restaurant on Bath Street, which has been empty for more than 15 years. We arrived to change the locks and were apparently so intimidating that the owners raced down from Preston that very morning to open the building voluntarily and agree a plan of works. Indeed, Your Worship, I'm proud to say that we'll be looking to force entry to the former Wig Falls building on Bath Street in about 2 weeks' time. So, as far as we can tell, this is a genuine innovation. Councils have long had these powers, and no one previously that we can tell has used them for town centre regeneration in the way that we are. That's why in this year's budget, the programme becomes its own dedicated function, separate from the Shopfront Improvement Grant, so we can pursue this full time with bigger targets. They're even replicating the programme in Amber Valley, Your Worship. The Shopfront Improvement Grant continues separately because it remains a very good thing to do and extremely popular. Once the scheme picked up word of mouth, we ran out of money fairly quickly. That can also be said for our shop signage grant. We've funded more than 60 new shop signs for local businesses this year, more than double the total delivered in the previous 2 years combined. We're also maintaining the research and development grant. In fact, everything pretty much that we were funding previously through the Shared Prosperity Fund now comes back in-house. But why does this matter? Because, Your Worship, we return again to the consultation result. 93% support for action on empty shops, higher even than the council tax freeze and expanding free car parking. Because, of course, people value those things. They can see them directly in their bank accounts. But what the consultation also shows is that people do not want a shrinking council, worn down by years of austerity, out of sight and out of mind. They want it active, delivering on their priorities, that uses its money and its powers for the good of our towns, our villages and the community. So yes, we're freezing council tax. We're also expanding free car parking. We're taking action on empty shops. We're upgrading paths. We're upgrading paths, lighting and play areas in our parks. We're fixing bus shelters. We're taking someone full time into the housing team to bring empty homes back into use. I could go on. This is not the first or last list of great things we're doing that you're going to hear this evening, Your Worship. Scrapping pavement licence fees. Free car parking over the weekend. There's too much for me to even go on about and I'm running out of time. What I want to make clear, Your Worship, is that this budget represents a choice between austerity and investment, and austerity's over under us. That's what we're delivering, and that's why I'll be voting for this budget this evening. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Howard. Councillor Everett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I stand here tonight, almost 3 years after I was first elected, with the enormous pleasure of speaking on a budget that invests in Erewash. I remember one of my first chats with officers in May 2023. In fact, I was stood just outside of this room. I'd just been elected as councillor and just elected as deputy leader. I was excited to make a difference in Erewash, in Long Eaton, where I live and was elected. And I was told that Erewash Borough Council would be bankrupt by 26-27. Well, what a difference 3 years makes. Tonight, I stand here and can say that we are freezing council tax. At a time when household budgets are stretched, when families are watching every pound, we are fulfilling our promise to put money back into people's pockets. And let's be clear about the difference between a Labour council and a Reform or Tory-run council. So let's face it, they're the same party these days. Certainly in Westminster they are. While we freeze council tax here in Erewash, Reform-run Derbyshire County Council has just increased theirs by 4.9%, a significant rise for residents across the county. And yet, even with that increase, they are still projecting an overspend of £1.6 million. Higher taxes, worse financial management, and what have residents received in return? The closing of care homes and day centres, vital services that really matter to people, services that families rely on, services that provide dignity, safety and support. Gone. And we should also remember the choices made in the past in Erewash. Under previous Conservative budgets in Erewash, neighbourhood wardens were cut, street cleaning was reduced, services were chipped away to the true detriment of our towns. 2/3 of our residents live in our towns, and the Conservatives let those people down. They focused on cutting the services that keep communities clean, safe and welcoming. Things have changed. This Labour administration is investing in Erewash. We are investing in new play parks. We are cleaning up our town centres, tackling graffiti across the borough. We are supporting local organisations and charities, including supporting Erewash Voluntary Action, which in turn supports hundreds of others. We are filling the gaps that Derbyshire County Council leave behind because Labour recognises the important role that organisations play in supporting the people of Erewash. Free car parking in December and on Saturdays will support local businesses and encourage people to shop locally. When people have a whole day free parking, it means that they don't just pop to the shops, but can stay longer to go out to lunch and to browse shops that they might not have otherwise visited. We are increasing the number of neighbourhood wardens to tackle antisocial behaviour and fly tipping. We are tackling rogue commercial landlords who allow properties to become eyesores by issuing clean-up orders on derelict buildings that drag down our high streets. We have scrapped pavement licences and we have frozen fees and charges for small organisations and individuals. I'm proud of this budget. We have delivered not just a balanced budget, but one that invests and one that cares. And I'm looking forward to the year ahead, a year in which the people of Erewash will begin to see a real difference, not just in figures on a spreadsheet, but in cleaner streets, safer neighbourhoods and stronger communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Everett. Councillor Hall-Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Keep this first bit brief. So, as I walk into the town hall, I often reflect on what we're going to discuss through the evening, and clearly it's the budget. But I came in this evening, I almost tripped over the surplus funds we've got everywhere. We've got so much now. We've got overzealous council tax for the past 2 years, and now we see a freeze, yet we've seen maximum increases. So again, two scrutiny needs ago I referred to, that isn't balanced to go maximum increase, no increase. That is not a balance. Brown bin tax, just to name a couple of things where we've overcharged residents and we've taken money from them we didn't need to. Now, we found ourselves in a position now where we've got money to spend, or to be absolutely precise, reinvest our residents' hard-earned money before putting that money at the mercy of a future mega council. So with that in mind, I would like to propose an amendment to the budget. Copies here, if you'd like to take one, very brief. But I ask you to pass those around. I'll give you some chance to read, and then when you have it, if I may, I'll carry on.
I'd love a copy.
It's very brief. So yeah, I'll pass those down.
Thank you.
Again, keeping it simple.
Do we have a seconder for your motion?
Have you finished then?
For the moment, if I may, carry on.
I believe, I don't think we can go to debate until
Okay, yes.
Fine, okay. Councillor Hall Evans.
Well, I better rattle on. So, over the last couple of years, we've seen reserves grow and grow. Many have made comments in this chamber about how our high streets continue to suffer along with the cost of living crisis. So this brings about this amendment where we can invest back in our high streets to the benefit of local businesses, consumers of those products and services. We're giving back to those we've taken from. I would like to celebrate for a minute though. We do have some agreement that free parking is a way forward. We just have a slightly different view of it. Even if you look to motions later in the agenda, unfortunately, we're not going to go through them, but even our reform colleagues see a need for free parking. Anyway, I move on. So, again, to reiterate what's shared, this council resolves that parking across all council-owned off-street car parks will be free up until the 31st of March 2028 at a cost of approximately 1.042 million per annum. This is something we can well afford to be funded by a drawdown from the Erewash Investment Fund, and I'll go on. Traditionally, Saturday is the busiest day of trading, but indulge me a few thoughts. We're not a traditional society. We are diverse, and we must embrace all our residents. For example, those that work 4 on 4 off shifts, to whom Saturday, Sunday may just be another day of the week. Singling out Saturday, for example, wouldn't always fit their schedule. Equally, the business owners, from their side, the majority, they operate 7 days a week. We want to be able to spread the demand, not just have a busy high street once a week or through the weekend. Capacity levelling is key so we can help our local business owners sustain through the more quiet times. Invariably, through the weekdays, it will be quiet, and I'm stating the obvious there, but that brings to us a further groups of people, those that may prefer to consume goods and services during quieter periods and would actually actively seek not to go when it's busy on the Saturdays and Sundays. So again, this amendment supports all those diverse groups. We all want to take steps to increase footfall to the high streets. Once people are there, we want them to enjoy the high streets. Again, picking up on points Councillor Everett's made. Make those visits more experiential, not just transactional. I would never want them to feel rushed, have the freedom to be able to, for example, attend an appointment to the optician, pick up some shopping, rest, take in some refreshments before heading to the next engagement. We should contribute, if at all possible, to bring people to the high street and keep them there in an unrushed, enjoyable way. This cost is affordable to the council. We should give back to the residents now, support high streets, and avoid sinking our residents' money into a future mega council's debts. As such, I urge everyone to support this amendment.
Here.
Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Yeah, I'm very happy to second this amendment. I just wish that I'd have found for every time when Labour was in opposition that they demanded that we should introduce free car parking. They accused us of being the cause of the demise of the high streets in Ilkeston and Long Eaton. Nonsense, of course, ignoring the fact about online shopping and the large free supermarket parking, which is unfortunate, and that's impacted many high streets. What amazed me and how hypocritical, when they took control of the council, one of the first things they did was increase car park charges. Not only that, but a year later, they were bragging in press releases they'd frozen the charges. Yeah, they had, but on the increased amount they'd introduced. I'll be fair, we did charge for car parking, but at a very reasonable amount, and the first hour was free. We did this because it was an income for us, and our budgets were tight. But this ridiculous notion of bankruptcy, if we'd been there to bankruptcy, we could have done what the Labour have done and charged up the prices to our residents. So that is an absolute nonsense. We did need that income, as I say, because we wanted to keep delivering the excellent services. We wanted to keep our beautiful, fantastic floral displays that actually attracted many of the visitors to our towns. But more importantly than that, we also wanted to keep the costs down for our residents. When Labour took control, they didn't seem to bother about our residents, along with the increased car parking charges, charging for brown bins, closed the greenhouses, stopped all the floral displays, stopped cutting grass, decimated reception hours, withdrew parish funding. I could go on. We now have a situation that they have so much in reserves that I really believe they are beginning to feel a bit guilty and they're trying to give a bit back, which is good. I've no problem with that, because what we don't want to do is leave a large amount in reserves that when LGR, if it happens, you never know, it might be a U-turn. If it happens, we don't want Erewash residents' council tax going into the Derby City coffers and look after their debts. It does seem that one of the initiatives was to look at car parking charges. I did see there was a consultation on car parking, headed, I believe, "What would you like?" It appeared nearly all wanted free car parking. Then the consultation seemed to disappear very quickly, but I'm sure no one actually requested just Saturday free car parking. I mean, Sunday really just doesn't count, because most businesses in the town centres are closed on a Sunday anyway. So if you really want to help our businesses, as you say, you've got very often, and as you have a very large amount of cash in the reserves and a very recent, very generous settlement from government, Labour government to a Labour council, and Erewash has done better than most. So please, why don't you change your mind about car parking? We won't call it a U-turn. We'll call it that you've had a rethink about our residents. So we would support 7 days of free car parking. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hart. Councillor Dawson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, isn't it wonderful going back to the old days? Interesting. Yes. All I can say is on what Councillor Hart has just said. If the previous administration had managed the council budget so well, they wouldn't have needed to have introduced car parking charges. I can remember Councillor Powell, when he was a member, standing in the chamber going, "We need this money for the budget." Anyway, one thing that I will say about free car parking, and actually as a point of clarification, I believe that the consultation that Councillor Hart referred to was one that was run by somebody independent from the council. But interestingly, along with free car parking, obviously we did free car parking in December all day. Obviously, that is the busiest trading period. What we found from that, and I've certainly found by going around and talking to businessmen and business owners, is actually a lot of the retailers do not like all day free car parking, for the simple reason that actually they say people who come into the town in the morning leave the cars, and actually we don't see any of the benefit. And so actually the Saturday free car parking was a bit of a compromise with them. Excuse me. Oh, well, you say that way, but you know, Council Hart says that she wishes she had £1 for every time that Labour called for free car parking. Well, of course, you know, I wish I'd had £1 for every time they were saying that, oh, we need this for the budget. Because actually, all I could see is if they did really manage the budget properly, then they wouldn't have needed to have introduced charges in the first place. And obviously, you know, I think we would all agree actually that we all want to see local businesses thriving. I think I know that the Councillor Hall Evans referenced the motion later on, which won't be debated now. However, I just think that is quite ironic from the particular members that were planning to introduce that motion. They aren't here tonight, surprisingly, but I think, you know, importantly, and I will give credit where credit is due to you know, members of the opposition. Actually, they turned up to the budget scrutiny meeting. They actually engaged with the budget scrutiny meeting, which is you know what it is there for. Yeah, we have others that basically snipe from the sidelines, don't actually get involved in any of the processes in order to try and influence the budget, and then spout and shout on social media when they don't get their own way. But anyway, I digress, Mr. Mayor. I think the thing is with this amendment, as I've said, I don't think it would be welcomed by business, and therefore I couldn't support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dawson. Councillor F. Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I've heard such a load of rubbish. I've really got to respond. It's obviously Councillor Hall Evans has got no idea what a balanced budget is. He thinks you have to balance the budget over several years. In fact, you balance the budget within the lifetime of the budget, which is from April to April. I'm not surprised he doesn't know what it is and how to balance it, because it's something that their group never ever achieved in 20 years. I've been on this council 35 years. 35 years. And I can say, in all that time, we have had a two-tier council. We've had the parishes, well funded. We've had the non-parished areas, forgotten about. I always use the example of Johnny's playing area, where we had one swing and one slide, but one of the poorest areas of the borough. That's all there was. And you needed a wetsuit in order to be able to use them, because both of them ended up in a mud pool at the end. So that's what we got under this scheme. There were funds were laughingly called concurrent functions, but the parishes never did any concurrent functions. They gave them up. At least 16, 17 years ago, they gave the concurrent functions up. The allocations never went before any committee. It never came to council except in the budget book, and you had to look for it because it was well buried. And when it went to the parishes, I've no idea how it got there. It probably went in a brown carrier bag full of money. But there was no trail once the money got there. Councillor Scott let the cat out the bag at the last full council meeting when we were talking about this fact, when he admitted that at Draycott, they used their concurrent function money to subsidise the rates, the parish precepts. And I suspect a lot of other parishes were doing that as well. On the matter of free car parking, this has been going kicking backwards and forwards all day. I can remember the first time we discussed this when I was a young councillor in 1991. We hadn't built the bypass yet. And in fact, it was an area of rubble where all the housings had been demolished. That was the car parks that were offered to people of Ilkeston. We used to lose about 15 to 20 cars each month, which got stolen because there was no security, there was no one watching them. I always remember my mentor, Pete Lynch, Councillor Pete Lynch. He always told me when we built purpose-built car parks, there's no such thing as a free car parking space. It has to be built, it has to be maintained, it has to be secured. We still have that principle today. We have a lot of good car parks, and we also have a warden service, which we never had then. All-day parking, and we've tried this before because I've seen it kick back lots of times, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. All-day car parking only benefits people who work in the centre of town. They get a free parking space. It doesn't benefit shoppers. It doesn't benefit the footfall of the towns. So if you want to give a gift to the people who work in the town, then go ahead. But I won't support giving a free car parking space to somebody who works in town who could probably walk there or catch a bus. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Phipps. Councillor Everett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It has been pointed out already this evening by Councillor Dawson, but by Councillor Phillips even, that isn't it odd that the shadow lead member for finance still doesn't know what a balanced budget means? It was pointed out to him at budget scrutiny that he clearly didn't understand the meanings of the word balanced budget, but he's still not yet gone to Google. It takes 30 seconds. You've even got AI these days, that'll help you too. I'll be voting against this amendment because we likely have another 2 years of this council, and therefore 2 years of funding this proposal. So the important part of this amendment is a part that's not actually written. It's been just some initials here, but it's the words per annum, because it's not £1.042 million. This will have to be funded for at least 2 years, which is £2.048 million, which is nearly half of the Erewash Investment Fund. Now, I know Councillor Major has other ideas for that fund as well. But eight for, that's quick maths, my apologies. But as you'll know, that's even higher amount, Councillor Major. I know Councillor Major has other ideas for the Erewash Investment Fund, and I want to make sure that all people in this borough can invest from that fund, not just those that drive or are visiting the town centres. And accepting this motion means that it's really only people that will drive that can benefit. Therefore, I'll be voting against this motion to ensure that there is money left over to do many of the investments that I know that have come out of the budget consultation and further that will be examined throughout the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Everett. Councillor Major.
Thank you very much. 35 years, Councillor Phillips, and you still entertain me. The biggest entertainment there was the suggestion that somehow brown paper bags and bits and bobs came from a Labour member who was a member of this council when a certain Cyril Stevens was leader. No, he just did it in the open, didn't he? There was no such untowards. I quite often, I remember the Borough Council auditing parish councils and how the expenditure and current function money. I would hope he actually, I did say that tongue in cheek, but I really hope he retracts that, because I think also another previous member that happened to be his son made those comments and got in trouble for them, because there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that anything untoward happened with the concurrent function money that was sent to parish councils. It was spent on delivering services in the villages and in Sawley as well. There is nothing towards. I really hope he takes that back.
But point of order, Mr. Mayor. Yes. 1513. I will retract that. It was meant as an off-the-cuff remark. However, it was meant to stress the fact that there was no regulated way of that money being delivered to the parishes, which was brought back to this council.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips, for retracting that statement.
Thank you. I do appreciate it. Thank you, Councillor Phillips. When's free car parking not good? It's free car parking's great. Car parking's great. Member after member tells us free car parking. I started to lose count on my hands how many times free car parking was mentioned, and how much they're doing for the town centres. We suggest let's do more. Let's give free parking permanently. Free parking's bad. Business don't want free parking. I've never seen such a U-turn in my life so quickly. But I just want to give one last thought for you and one last consideration. We are about to go through LGR, and there is going to be a period where there'll be harmonisation of services, charges, and other situations going off between the council areas, and we are at least going to probably end up in Derby City, South Derbyshire and Erewash. Currently, South Derbyshire does not charge for car parking. If we go into arrangements and we're also offering free parking and no free parking, the harmonisation becomes extremely simple. We're not just protecting Long Eaton and Ilkeston town centres and delivering free parking for them, but we would also be protecting Swaddling Co, because the harmonisation doesn't need to happen, because all towns and villages around Derby City will already have free car parking, so it can remain. Consider that when making your decision on free car parking, because it may be a golden opportunity to set the standard on what the harmonisation of that policy will end up being between all the councils. I do think that is something seriously worth considering. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Major. Councillor Mills.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm very grateful to Councillor Hall Evans for recognising something that struck me straight away when it said that the free parking would only be available on a Saturday. There are many people for whom shopping on a Saturday is either not possible because they're working, or quite frankly, is a bit of a nightmare because they're neurodiverse or they have a disability. So it wasn't actually very equality friendly just having it on a Saturday. I do take the point about people parking in free car parks and going to work, but then people work on a Saturday, so the same follows for a Saturday. We spoke earlier about the town deal and all the marvellous work that's being done in Long Eaton to make it a nicer place to be. We're going to have a beautiful bridge and we're going to have a really nice town centre, but there's no point in that unless there's people there and thriving businesses. So we need to do both things. We need to make the town centre more attractive and we need to make sure people can use it. Councillor Hall-Evans spoke about people going out for lunch and having nice time and visiting hospitality venues. Hospitality venues are limited in their capacity. So even if every hospitality venue is full on a Saturday, doesn't matter how many more people come into the town centre, they can't accommodate them on a Saturday. So let's spread the custom over the whole week. One of the ambitions in the Erewash Investment Fund is to revitalise the market. And there's no better way of people thinking, well, I'll just nip and see what the market's like, than to give them a bit of free parking so that they can have a look and hopefully the market will grow and we'll get a really thriving town centre. So while I appreciate that there are difficulties and it doesn't necessarily fit in with the plans that everybody had, I will be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mills. Councillor Alfrey.
Thank you, Worship. Just to, I've got a few points, obviously, but just to Wayne's initial point regarding LGA, it's quite assumptuous, really, because it's like a false equivalence. As we're both aware, when it gets pulled together, the unitary will be able to change charge for fixed fees. They might be able to raise them, they might be able to lower them. There might be a charge here that's 50 quid in one area, and they might be able to equalise that because there's a set balance at £90. You know, so for example, the garden waste service we provide is very good value for money, has been bought into by residents wholeheartedly, is one of the cheapest across the board, and in other areas of Derbyshire it's £80. So it's false equivalence to turn around and say, well, it's £20 here. The concern for me and stuff would be that whoever gets hold of the unity might turn around and go, well, let's make it £80 across the board. So, you know, well, you know, so, and then moving on to other bits and bobs. So, look, I mean, I'll be wholeheartedly voting down the amendment. My nuts and bolts question would be quite simply, where else are we taking money from what I would call a very good budget? It's like, well, we want money from here. Well, what are we going to chop? What aren't we going to deliver? Because I strongly believe in what we're delivering is going to work. So the Shadow for Lead Member for Resources, Conservative Lead Member, both spoken about the past without looking at the positives within this budget. I've got a quote for you I'd like to share. In the process of letting go, you will lose many things from the past, but you will also notice yourself noting hope within the future. And I find a lot of hope within this budget that's been delivered by my colleague here. I'd like to thank my colleague, the Lead Member for Resources, and Mr. Della Rocca and the team for their hard work and support in delivering this. Also the support with my portfolio, additional funding to add to the exemplary work undertaken by the Erewash Waste Management team in delivering an exemplary food collection service. Where, and I'll note to everybody here, because nobody's really talked about it, this programme, 1 in 4 councils have failed to meet this deadline. And this team's delivered it really well. An increase in my portfolio of community wardens, adding to the dedicated town cleaners. An increase in compacting fly tipping. A procurement of street cleansing appliance. Feasibility studies into ecology and diversity, assessment of waterfowl and wading birds, and the possible reintroduction of Eurasian beaver, scaling up of native bulb planting, which includes bluebells, daffodils, snowdrops, to the tune of 170,000 this year alone, which will scale up next year as well. Okay, so this budget has hope, and it does increase many benefits. So generally, if we're going to, and my deputy leader's pointed that out, it does say per annum, so it's £2 million. Where are we removing £2 million from all of the good things that this council and this team are doing? Thank you, Your Honour.
Thank you, Councillor Alfred. Councillor Snaith.
Thank you very much. Well, I'd just like to congratulate the opposition on a well-crafted trap. This is taking money from the investment fund, which means we have to take money out of other things that we'd intended. Now, the Erewash Investment Fund is going to provide so much to this council, and you want to take that away. So it's a trap, basically. Well-crafted, but it's a trap. Simple as that. The free car parking, yeah, you can go one way or another, but the car parks are underused regardless of whether there's free parking, because we've seen that the footfall on December doesn't increase that much. So the other side of this trap is also the fact that the stations aren't included in any of this. So you give three-step parking on the stations. That's what you're actually saying on this amendment. Yeah. I've during the week, yeah, it's a lot of money. I'd also like to point out, and I've said this so many times before, the Conservatives ran a deficit practically every year they were in power. And I will tell you again, a deficit means you're spending more money than coming in. Using reserves is not balancing the budget. You still have a deficit. You made a political choice in the same way that we're making a political choice to use this investment fund to actually give people things they want. You made a political choice to put flowers in the ground and close public toilets.
Thank you, Councillor Snaith. Councillor Broadhurst.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a £2 million cost, half of our investment fund. It's our conviction, and endorsed by the public in the budget consultation, that the council needs to be an active council that spends money on people's priorities. When running for election in 2023, I asked people what they wanted most for Ilkeston, and most people said that they wanted something to be done about the empty shops on our high street. They wanted proper parks in their areas. They wanted a council that is able to act decisively and transform what many felt for many years was a declining town. We need to consider opportunity cost. To spend half of our investment fund on one thing is to not be able to act elsewhere. We won't be able to support our fantastic charities and community groups. We won't be able to build brilliant new parks that will last for generations in our left behind areas in Ilkeston and Kirkcallam. I will be voting against this amendment and voting for actions on empty shops, new parks, tackling dodgy HMOs and investing in Ilkeston.
Thank you, Councillor Broadhurst. Councillor Mee.
Thank you, Your Worship. I always oppose the scrapping of the 3 period of parking, and I still believe that there is a considerable benefit in like 1 hour free parking. But this goes rather further than that. Councillor Phillips is quite right. Did I say that? In that offering all day parking is just going to get abused. It will not benefit the tradespeople in our town centres, not at all. There's a lot better things for us to spend £2 million on rather than this. If it had been a different amendment, I may well have voted for it, but I won't be voting for this one.
Thank you, Councillor Mee. Councillor Howard.
Your Worship, thank you. Could I just first clarify, and I hate to have to do this at the top of what I say, that Long Eaton car park is included in the Saturday free car parking offer, contrary to what Councillor Snaith said. Okay. Your Worship, I'm really sorry to say this. Call it message discipline. I'm just going to do a big list again. Action on empty shops, upgrading our parks, paths, lights, big new play areas, fixing bus shelters, bringing empty homes back into use, scrapped pavement licenses, street cleaning, more action against weeds, more neighbourhood wardens, indeed the new village investment fund. The budget consultation makes it clear. People don't just want a council that hides away. They're not Thatcherite small staters. They want action. They want investment. And that's what this budget unamended delivers. And just to be clear, expanded free car parking certainly was in the budget consultation, and it gave Saturdays as the leading suggestion. It's Saturdays, not 1 hour free, because we don't want people to just spend an hour in our towns. We want them to browse, to peruse, to drop into our cafes, our restaurants. We've chosen the busiest day in our car parks because it puts the most money back in people's pockets. Working families who don't have time to go to the town centre in the week. And we're delivering this alongside all of this investment, all of this action that I shan't list again. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Howard. Councillor Bryan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I mean, Councillor Major tried to accuse us on this side of saying that this is a terrible idea. I'm not saying that. I think there is good merit in this idea, in this motion. However, politics is the language of priorities. And are our priorities to just focus on one particular group of people, on people who want to come in and park in the town, of which we are already offering something to those people, and shut off potentially the investment that we could have given, that we're planning on giving to things like the Village Investment Fund that so many of your residents would benefit from things like new parks, from all of those incredible and wonderful things that Councillor Howard just mentioned. You know, I think it is about our priorities. And for me, there are so many of my residents who I speak to regularly when I go out regularly canvassing with our local Labour team, who don't drive in our town centre, who live in my ward of Long Eaton Central, who wouldn't benefit at all from this. And should we really be using, as Councillor Broadhurst said, half of the Erewash Investment Fund that wouldn't benefit such a large proportion of our residents? And that is why I'll be voting against this, not because I think it's a bad thing, but because I think there are better things that this money could go towards, better things that we will be putting this money towards. And that is why we should vote this down, so we can spend this money for everyone, for more people, so that so many more people across our borough can benefit from this money that we have.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. Councillor Bilby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice a bit.
All right.
Overreacted Morris last night. Bridge Street car park at Sandyacre. It used to be free. It's now charged. The residents in Sandyacre tend to be more the elderly residents who tend not to go out on a Saturday. They'll go out in the week. Retired people like myself. So the Bridge Street car park, free car parking on a Saturday is not going to make it function better. The people in Sandyacre use that for the little shops around. Now Lidl's is packed, particularly on a Saturday it's packed. That car park is near on empty. You could have a game of football in it. I'd just like to say that you keep saying that you're putting money back into people's pockets, into Erewash residents' pockets. Most people in Erewash that I talk to feel that you're picking the pockets. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bilby. Do I have any other members wishing to speak on this amendment? Fabulous. Councillor Hall Evans to summarise.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Guessing the support's not great over the other side. I thank Councillor Mills for summing up well the principle of why to focus on Saturday. Actually, you know, we're disregarding some members of the community and we're disregarding capacity balancing. A lot of things are said for pure effect, I feel sometimes. Again, I refer to couple of scrutiny meetings ago, and I do actually commend Councillor Maslick for raising the subject of mental health. However, it just seems for effect, because when we start talking about people that are neurodiverse and would benefit from a balance, then, you know, we just seem to say things for effect, which is a little bit, on one hand, I credit it, on the other hand, it's a disappointment that it seems to be said for effect. I guess overall, I feel I know which way this is going. Not daft. I do fully understand what a balanced budget is. Absolutely. You know, the small amounts we talk about here, I could make your eyes water, but I'm not here to teach you anything or give you a lesson. I'm glad you understand, though, what per annum is, because I would have been disappointed to have to explain that. But I think I'll leave it there. I think I've said enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall Evans. We'll move to the vote on the amendment. All in favour? All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That motion has fallen. Move back onto the substantive. I had Councillor Bryan to speak.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, I wanted to start by remembering where we started. Well, actually, where I started, I've stood for election quite a few times before I did finally get elected. I think as many of us have in this chamber, you know, we stand in different seats, sometimes to favour to our party and lose. And I remember when I first said I wanted to stand, and I said I wanted to fight to get more funding for stuff like more parks and more youth funding. I mean, I remember I was told that that was never going to happen. That was impossible. The austerity meant it was never going to happen. The second time I was saying, well, you know, just at least that we could fix our bus shelters because they're falling apart. And I remember again being told that that would be impossible. I'm dreaming too high. I should aim a little lower. Well, today, we are voting for a budget that is beyond my imagination of what was possible at that time. You know, we are funding new parks and park repairs across the borough that will impact so many young people and families. We are fixing the bus shelters. Woohoo! You know, this is absolutely fantastic. We are a listening council, and I, along with my Labour colleagues, we regularly knock doors. And I know that my Long Eaton Central residents are struggling with the cost of living. And I know that they have felt that for the 20 years of the previous Conservative administration, they felt that the towns are underfunded. We spoke, the leader of the Conservative opposition spoke about the villages feeling they're underfunded. It was our towns, particularly in our town centres, which have traditionally always voted for Labour, that was so often ignored by the opposition party that felt like they were underfunded. And that is why I'm proud to be fighting for that investment and that we're getting that investment into our towns. Now, I know that so many of my residents are struggling with the cost of living crisis, and that is why I'm proud we are freezing council tax to help with the cost of living. That we are expanding free car parking so that car parks are free on Saturdays, and freezing fees and charges that will mean our residents in Erewash are helped just a little bit in these tough times. I'd like to talk about some of the benefits that my own ward will see. I'm lucky to represent the best part of Erewash, in my opinion. Yes, that's right, Long Eaton Town Centre. Sadly, we often see a lot of antisocial behaviour and graffiti. And we have invested in graffiti kits for our town centres. And we're already seeing the positive difference that these are making in keeping our town centre clean and tidy and looking at its best. To tackle antisocial behaviour, we are increasing the number of neighbourhood wardens, something I know my residents have wanted to see for a long time and will be really pleased to see that this is happening. Another thing that my residents have wanted to see is the number of sprays against weeds to be increased. It is something I'm regularly asked about on the doorstep. And I'm proud to say we are increasing the number of sprays with a targeted focus on places with persistent problems. I'd also like to highlight the wonderful success of the Shopfront Improvement Grant and Section 215 clean-up orders. These have really helped to clean up our high streets and make it look more modern and well used and welcoming. In short, we are building a town centre to be proud of once again. In summary, we are freezing council tax, we are expanding free car parking, we are taking action on anti-shops, we're upgrading paths and lighting, we are upgrading play areas in our parks, we're fixing bus shelters, and we'll have someone working full-time in the housing team to bring empty homes back into use, and so much more. In short, it really does feel like a new dawn for Erewash. This is what a Labour council can do when working with a Labour government to ensure the best for our residents. This would not have happened under the previous Conservative administration. This has happened thanks to a Labour council working with a Labour government. Thank you, Your Honour.
Well, thank you, Councillor Bryan. Councillor Mscallick.
I think everything's been said.
Fabulous. Councillor Broadhurst.
I guess not. I'm not easily deterred. I'm actually losing my voice as well. So. I'm very proud of what this council has been able to do with this budget, and I'm proud of the work we have taken to get here. We had a couple of tough budgets when we came in. No one comes into local politics because they want to make cuts. I know I didn't, but nonetheless, we needed to get spending under control and tough decisions were made. And I'm very proud to say that we fixed our budget without needing to lay off any council staff. But I did not get into local politics to balance budgets. I wanted to do right by Ilkeston, the town I grew up in. This budget does right by Ilkeston. It freezes my residents' council tax and introduces free parking on Saturdays, saving my residents money. Saturdays were chosen as they are the busiest day of the week for our town centres, when working families are most available to go into the town. I'm pleased that this budget looks after people's pockets. But it goes further than just saving money. We're expanding our services, setting money aside and using muscular, innovative powers to force bad landlords to do works in their buildings that stand rotting in our high street. I've personally been able to see negligent landlords forced to rush across the country to avoid our council from changing the locks on their building. And we're boosting our parks. In my ward, new lights on Rutland Rec and Vicky Park. Johnny's Park near Tesco has also been completely transformed. Johnny's Park was dire and emblematic of a town that had, on the whole, been forgotten. Many of the poorer parts of Ilkeston have seen no investment in their parks for decades, and that is changing now. Of course, it's not just Ilkeston that is benefiting. Long Eaton benefits too from actions on empty properties. The villagers have seen an introduction of a shop sign grant, an exciting new opportunity for investment in their villages. I'm very happy to support this budget, which delivers for Ilkeston and indeed everyone else in Erewash.
Thank you, Councillor Broadhurst. Councillor Hart.
Don't know where to start really. I'll start with the free car parking again. After all the appeals that we should have provided car parking free all day, now totally against it. And one of the reasons now has just been said, oh, well, the workers will fill the car park spaces. Well, okay, do free car parking from 9:30 then. I don't think that will make an awful lot of difference. So that will stop the workers. That was why when we did Christmas parking, we always started it slightly later so that the workers parked in their normal places and left the space in the car park for our residents. So that was one thing. There was a mention about when we were in control, we only worried about the parishes. I think people have forgotten, actually, it was the Conservative government that put, I think it's
25 million.
Well, no, not second. Put some money into Cotmanhade. I think it was 16 million, something like that. And I was on the board of that. And we had actually got a full-time manager to try to deliver services. And that was in Cotmanhade. Perhaps some of the new ones have forgotten that. We got 25 million into Long Eaton, again, from a Conservative government. So, come on, it isn't all about, the parishes. There's a lot being put into the town centres. What was I going to say on that one? I won't mention the brown bag because we've already had that. I thought it was quite funny. Councillor Bryan going about bus shelters. Can you do something about the bus services as well? We haven't got any bus We haven't got any buses, so it's lovely having shelters. We just can't get buses in the parishes. We could yeah. And you're about to reduce, adding neighbourhood wardens. Yeah, well, you reduced the neighbourhood wardens, so you shouldn't realise now. In community safety, what worries me is I was very, very keen on community safety. I still am, and that was in my portfolio here. It was at DCC. And what worries me that the community safety partnership now is just 2 people, and they do need help. So yeah, I'm all in favour. But as I say, you did reduce that staff. So as I say, the money has been put in there. The free car parking, as I say, some of the excuses for saying that you wanted it. Now you've got every excuse. And I hate to say it, I mean, it's great that the shops are being sorted. I've no problem with that and the money going in there. But the residents don't really take that on board. The residents, if you look and talk to any of them, the main 2 things are, whether we like it or not, the flowers in the flower beds and car parking. That's what matters to them. You can talk about the investment, and that's great. And I know we've got to do that. No problem with that. But you want to listen to the residents, and you must see Facebook. You know how unpopular you've been. You must see some of the remarks on there. It's not good, and they're not happy with what you did. You're trying to put some back now, but you're not putting it back that will affect or on residents understand. As I say, you've got to do that. I appreciate it, but it would be nice that you could do something that our residents would actually be grateful for and acknowledge, and put you in a good place. We're trying to help you. Thank you, Councillor, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hart. Councillor Alfrey.
Keep it really short. It's just Steve knows, Councillor Bobby, sorry, he knows how much I care about Sandy Acre. I go around, talk to residents in shops and businesses quite a lot locally, even though it's not my own ward, and I get my hair cut locally. And I was talking to the hairdressers just on the bridge, and he talked to me about the car parking, and he asked me, can you do anything about Saturday car parking? It's my highest footfall. And I referred that to Councillor Aaron. Councillor, I've got a lot of admiration for you, and thanks for saying there's good things within this budget. I'm going to try not to be rude. We don't do things for votes. We do things because we think it's good and important to affect positive change and long-term aspiration for the future, not what looks good. And looking at social media, yes, residents do voice their opinions on social media, and yes, we do look at it. I often talk in the spotteds, and I pick up a lot of representation through that and then act upon it, and the hard-working team of the Green Space team then go out and deal with it the next day. I'm always vigilant on that, but it isn't about looking at how we can change the narrative or make sure people vote for us. It's about making good decisions.
Thank you, Councillor Alfrey. Councillor Mead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Last year I surprised myself because I actually voted for the budget for the first time since I'd been elected. This year, well, I certainly don't agree with everything, but that's never going to happen. Certainly, I agree with the Conservatives that the parishes are getting a poor deal from the borough at the moment, but I can see some very good initiatives being included within this budget, all at a frozen level of council tax. The proactive work on empty shops is brilliant, better recycling, filling in some of the gaps created by the reform-led county council, the work of the Erewash Museum that Councillor Everett mentioned earlier. So on balance, I'm going to surprise myself again, and I'm going to be supporting the project.
Thank you, Councillor Mead. Do I have any other members wishing to speak? Yes, I've got, yes, yeah. Councillor Pace.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The matter of what the parishes get keeps coming back time after time. If I'm not mistaken, I think if parishes have got a particular project, if they approach Councillor Thomas, they're likely to get the money they're after for a specific purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pace. Unless I have any other councillors, you've already spoke, Councillor Howard. Sorry. Unless I have any other councillors, Councillor Phillips. Councillor Dawson, you reserved your right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't take long. You know, it's interesting. It seems to me there's been road to Damascus moment somewhere along there. I think just a couple of clarifications. It was mentioned earlier on about the food waste collections. I think, you know, just again to put on record the fact that we are on time with that, which is very good. And yes, there have been some interesting comments on Facebook, but I'm not going to touch on Facebook too much because it's not necessarily the real world. And if I get on that soapbox, you'll never get me off it anyway. But yeah, I think there are a lot of councils that have struggled with this. Obviously, it's taken a lot of time to implement because it was the former, in fact, no, it wasn't the former government. It was the former government that brought this in under Boris Johnson. So again, well done to our teams for doing that. In terms of the core strategy, again, just as a point of clarification, we are required by law to have one or start to have one. Now, we can't have it both ways. We hear 1 minute that if we don't have a core strategy, we'll have developers, or we don't have an emerging plan, sorry, we'll have developers riding roughshod over everywhere. And yet, when we do put something in the budget to actually forego that and try and stave it off, we're then getting criticised for it. Well, you can't have it both ways. Just as a point on harmonisation, as much as we may all say about harmonisation, what we think doesn't really matter, Mr. Mayor, because that will be, whether we all like it or not, for a new authority to decide. Now, there may be members in this chamber who are on that, there may not. Obviously, if there are, I'm sure those members, if they're on the new authority, will take those arguments forward, but we may all not end up on that new authority. We might have a idea of what we'd like to do, but in reality, we won't have the final say. And it's been a very long debate. Actually, say that's been quite cordial, which is quite nice. You know, well, draw your own conclusions on that one. Anyway, I will not say any more, and I'm happy to support the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dawson. Councillor Thomas to summarise, if you wish.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy for us to move to the vote.
Fabulous. As we talked about earlier, this is a recorded vote.
Evening, members. Councillor Alfrey. Apple. Thank you. Atkinson.
4.
Bilby.
Yeah.
Broadhurst.
4.
Bryan.
4.
Burns.
4.
Corbett.
Again.
Dawson.
4.
Doyle.
4.
Mrs. Eddy.
Against.
Everett.
4.
Miss Fennelly, sorry. Flatley.
Yes.
Green.
4.
M. Griffiths. Hall Evans.
Against.
Hare. Mrs. Hart. Howard.
4.
Lambert. Locke. Major.
Against.
Mascallick.
4.
Me. Miller.
Against.
Mills.
4.
Dr. Newton.
4.
Pace.
4.
F. Phillips.
4.
P. Phillips. Mrs. Poole. Revel.
Yeah.
Scott.
Again.
Snaith. Stratford. Thomas.
4.
Mrs. White.
That has passed. So agenda item 8 and 9 have passed. Move on to agenda item 10, minutes standing referred to council. We have two, and these will be taken separately. We have minute 328, confirmation of Article 4, direction to control the conservations of dwelling to houses in multiple occupancy occurring in Ilkeston and Long Eaton urban area. Councillor Howard.
Your Worship, I was very pleased to vote for this at Council Executive last week. It's the culmination of work started last summer to try and stem the breakneck pace at which new HMOs have been emerging in parts of Ilkeston and Long Eaton. For their incredible work on this, I must of course thank Steve Birkinshaw and his planning team for spearheading the effort, but also Mr. Della Rocca and the numerous other teams across the council that made significant contributions. This was big work, with a lot of working between departments and an entirely new process for us. I am very happy to know and be able to assure local people that we will have a comprehensive Article 4 direction in place across most of Ilkeston, Long Eaton and Sandiacre by March next year. But for a lot of people in Erewash, this is too slow. This was brought home to me, Councillor Everett and our MP Adam Thompson at our public meeting a couple of weeks ago. On Walton Street in Long Eaton, where another mass conversion event looks set to come, an Article 4 in a year's time brings little relief. The current permitted development right on converting HMOs was set by the Conservatives in 2012, following vigorous lobbying from the landlord, property developer, and estate agent lobbyists. As such, the system is deliberately designed to be slow and to protect the investments of these landlords rather than the rights of local people over what happens on their own streets. The law puts profits before people, and it's wrong. That's why, in the meantime, we'll be taking a series of other ameliorative measures. The Planning Committee's robust stance on HMO standards, emphasising that we want homes, not prison cells, has already led to changes in developers' habits. We'll soon have 2 planning enforcement officers on the case in Erewash, a big change from the years where we had none. While we have some 60 licensed HMOs in Erewash, which I'm assured are of good quality, there are more than double that number currently that are completely unlicensed. Nick Thurston and his team will now be undertaking a project to bring these unlicensed HMOs into line. We're changing the way we enforce against rogue landlords, investigating a system of fines to make action against them faster and cheaper, and we're hiring a new team to enforce the new Renters' Rights Act to make sure the law is being followed and that rules are being obeyed. From March 2027, all new HMOs in Erewash, not just the big ones, will require full planning permission. This means that when a new one is proposed, people on that street will be notified and consulted. They have the opportunity to make comment and object if they need to. And if there are enough objections, the proposal will be considered at Planning Committee so democratically elected councillors can have the final say over whether they go forward. This is not about hating HMOs, it's about making sure they're fit to live in and that people have a right to have their voices heard. This is not about hating landlords, as I know has been alleged of me, it's about making sure they follow the rules. And this is not about constraining the supply of affordable homes, it's about encouraging better outcomes so people have good quality, decent places to live. With that said, Your Worship, I move minute number 328 from the report confirming the Article 4 direction to come into place on March 6th, 2027.
Thank you, Councillor Howard. Councillor Everett to second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased to second the confirmation of Article 4 direction to control the conversion of dwellings to houses of multiple occupation. HMOs have become a bit of a blight in our towns, putting pressure on local amenities, their development meaning rubble in the streets and skips taking over Bennett Street in particular, but also Walton Street and the surrounding areas and other places across the borough, especially in Ilkeston as well. The HMO themselves are not appropriate a lot of the time, squishing 6 beds into a 3-bed house. Ensuring that all HMOs require planning permission will mean that homes are appropriate for the people that live in them and that development is appropriate for the people that live near them. So I'm very happy to second this.
Thank you, Councillor Everett. Councillor Revel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to So I fully support this. Credit where it's due. I think it's a great piece of work that we're heading in the direction of the local councils with the Article 4 direction. So we get my support.
Thank you very much. Councillor Broadhurst.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to speak briefly, as this clearly is going to have a big impact on the planning committee. I think I speak for all members of the committee, regardless of party, that we are up to the challenge of scrutinising closely and ruling appropriately on the HMO applications that will make their way to our committee once Article 4 is enacted.
Thank you. Councillor Bryan.
Thank you. I think I've spoken a lot in this chamber about HMOs and my feeling of them, and particularly, it's one of the things where I've had a lot of sort of meetings with residents. Residents have come to me quite often in my ward about the blight of HMOs on our streets, and it's not that people are against them, as Councillor Everett said. It's when they take over an entire street, where we saw scenes in some of our streets in Long Eaton of the whole way down the street sort of being skips. As there were conversions are happening, and then you see a sudden influx in a load of cars, and they're not being able to put space to park. And often, so many people I speak to around my age who don't want to have to live in these properties, because actually a lot of these properties aren't up to standard, as Councillor Howard referred to, and that's what we're fighting for, is to get these up to standard. Because I have too many friends, I know too many people who are in poor quality HMOs who are in living standards they should not have to accept, because there is nowhere else that they can afford to live. And that is not the type of place that we should be. And we should be fighting for good quality homes for people in our borough. And that's why I'm really proud to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a proud member of the planning committee, we do see a lot of HMOs come before us. And the fact that that is the only committee really which is non-political, we do tend to work together. We work very hard at it. So we still see these HMOs come along. If they're not fit for living, we say so. So we do a good. So I fully support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Councillor Griffiths.
Thank you, Worship. As the councillor for Bennett Street, there was no notifications of any kind about the work that was being done. Nobody in the street knew about it, not even me. There's also knock-on effects on the wildlife. There's rodents coming out of the drains. And that wasn't pleasant for anybody there either. My neighbour's got a rat scarer going all day, every day, and it's quite annoying. But it was amazing how many sort of rodents came out of the sewers. It was just weird. Mice as well as rats. I had a pet one coming up my garden. In fact, I thought it was somebody's pet that had got out. I didn't realise it was a wild one. But it's not a pleasant place to be in that respect. And it made it worse because I couldn't say anything. I didn't know anything. It wasn't helpful at all. And it wasn't nice for anybody living at that end of Bennett Street. And I think it's continuing. There's another street at Walton Street you mentioned. And there's several streets which aren't as long as Bennett Street, which are, I think, going to come under that same hammer. I hope we can resist it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Do I have any other councillors wishing to speak on this item? No. Councillor Howard to summarise.
No further comment, just that no further comment, Your Worship, just that I'm glad for the seemingly cross-party support. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to the vote. All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That minute has passed. Move on to minute 334, review of council constitution. Councillor Phillips, F. Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that minute number 334, which stands referred to council, be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dawson, second.
I'm happy to second that, and thank you to Danielle and the Democratic Services task team. It's never an easy thing to trawl through the Constitution to make amendments, so thank you.
Thank you. Is there any councillors wishing to speak on this item? No. Move to the vote then. All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That minute has passed. Move on to agenda item 11, notice of motions. There were two motions put forward, but Councillor Price has sent his apologies and requests that the monitoring officer move these motions to the next meeting of the full council, which is the 23rd of July 2026. So move on to agenda item 12, council minute book. I move that the minutes set out in the minute book for the period of the 8th of January 2026 to the 10th of February 2026 be noted. Councillor Dawson.
Happy to second, Mr.
Anyone wishing to note any of the minutes? Fabulous. All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Fabulous. Move on to agenda item 13, the Localism Act Pay Policy Statement 2026-2027. Councillor Dawson.
Happy to present the recommendations and propose them. Thank you.
Councillor Everett.
Happy to second.
Councillor Major.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. There's always a lot of debate in this chamber about many aspects, and obviously there's clear differences in approach on many issues that we have from different parties. But there's one thing that we can always rely on, and that's the fabulous staff at Erewash Borough Council. And I do. It's always a good opportunity to mention how pleased we are with them. I interacted with one of our members of staff over an issue we had in San Diego only at the beginning of this week, and the response was fabulous. His attention to detail was great. His commitment to get something done in a timely manner was marvellous. And that's not just a reflection on him. I think that's a reflection on the whole office of core. And I think it's an opportunity for us all to say thank you very much to the staff, who quite often are the ones that make us look good.
Councillor Pace.
Yes, thank you. As is the draft policy, I presume that amendments could be considered. I'm particularly concerned about section 5, which is on page 29 of the document, where it talks about the median earnings and the average or mean earnings of employees, and it comes up with the most amazing figures of those two measures. That's the full-time equivalent taxable earnings for all employees of the council is £36,134.87. I would point out that the measure that's missing from here is the modal. In other words, what are the most people earning? And the figures are skewed by the fact that the top earners are so far above the £12.85 an hour mark. So I would question the wisdom of using those figures because it doesn't reflect anything like what people are actually earning. So continuing in that section, on the next page, page 30, there's considerations of the relationship between top and bottom earners, and it sets a particular scale. Is there any particular reason why we cannot try and use some of the money we have available to give the bottom earners a bit of a pay rise? Thank you.
So in answer to your first question, Councillor Pace, yes, absolutely. If you have an amendment and a seconder, you're more than welcome to put that forwards. With regards to the second point, our Director of Finance, no, nothing. Okay, Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, with regard to the second point, there is pay facility in the budget. We recognise that our lower paid staff are lower paid compared to other borough council and other people doing similar jobs. So there is money in the budget to lift the pay of our lowest paid staff.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Is anyone else wishing to speak on this item? No? We'll move on to the vote then. All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That has passed. Move on to agenda item 14. Timetable of meetings of the civic year 2025-2026 and meetings of the council in 2027 2026-2027. Councillor Dawson.
Happy to propose the recommendation.
Councillor Everett.
Happy to second.
Yes. Fennelly. Councillor Fennelly.
Thank you, Worship.
Could
Just
you stand up to speak if you're able to? Sorry.
sorry, that's my fault. I should know better. Stood with the next mayor. Right, just a quick question. On May 27, it's down as Long Eaton for full council, but we've got May 26 of Long Eaton. Should not it be alternate?
I believe annual council is always here.
Is it? Oh, okay, that's fine. Is that what you're doing all the time now?
Yes. The decision has been made to take annual council here. I'm sure Councillor Dawson can expand on that.
Happy to clarify, Mr. Mayor. Normally, the precedent is that normally annual council is here, unless, of course, a particular mayor requests otherwise, which was the case in 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dawson. Any other questions relating to timetable of meetings? No, we'll move to the vote then. All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, councillors, officers, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes this meeting.